We just picked up a massive Azure Standard grocery order with the goal of stocking our pantry and cellar with a year's supply of food. Obviously, it still needs to get all put away, organized, and inventoried. And if you're not familiar with Azure Standard, it's basically a large food co-op on wheels. I will put all of the info in the description. Now, I know not everyone has a goal of having an entire grocery store in your basement, but you may be interested in buying in bulk and not quite sure how to plan for that. So today I'm going to go over my strategy for planning for a large bulk buy, whether it's from Azure Standard or some other source, and give you a peek at my household inventory system. We're also preparing to participate in my friend Jessica's Pantry challenge that starts soon, and you can get all the details for that over on her channel, Three Rivers Homestead. But basically the idea of the challenge is to not go to the grocery store for the months of January and February. And you do get to make your own rules. So for some families, this is just going to mean spending a certain amount each week or each month. And for other families, it might mean not shopping at all. I honestly haven't felt super motivated to participate in this challenge in the past because it's been our intention over the past few years to actually stay out of the grocery store all year long. We try to do a once a year shopping and then just try to live off of our food storage. However, in reality, there's always random things we're picking up here and there, and a lot of convenience foods that we grab simply because life gets hectic or what have you. So I'm really excited for this pantry challenge this year because I feel like it's going to help hold us accountable during a very busy season of our life and hopefully help keep us out of the grocery store, and more importantly, using up the food that we have in food storage first. Also, our family is doing a no spend challenge for the months of January and February, so I feel like these two things will go together beautifully. If you're new here, I'm Stacy, homeschooling and homesteading mama of 7, on a mission to ditch the grocery store and become more self-sufficient. Subscribe to our channel to learn more about our journey and how we are making that dream come true. I'm going to start by going over my process for planning for a large Azure Standard grocery order or a bulk food order, and then I'm going to go over some of the ways that our family is preparing so that we can actually pull off this Three Rivers challenge, even though we have a baby due any day now and life is pretty busy. Okay, so this is my strategy for planning out my Azure Standard order, which is where we get the majority of the food and supplies that we don't grow ourselves. First, I take inventory of everything we have, including all of our freezers, fridges, the pantry, and the cellar. I have a fancy spreadsheet to do this, but you can just use pen and paper. And then next week, I might do a video on my spreadsheet in case you're interested in that. Then I make a meal plan for the length of time I want my bulk buy to last. This year, I'm really trying to tweak this meal plan with the intention of using up what we already have on hand first, focusing on things that have been hanging around a little too long. This can be the most overwhelming part, but I'd encourage you to not overcomplicate it. I have a whole video on how I quickly and easily make an entire year's worth of meal plans, which I will link below. So if you're stuck there, I'd encourage you to watch that video next. Then I use my meal plan to make a master list of every ingredient we need to make those meals, plus an estimate of how much of each ingredient we will need for that time span. Again, don't overcomplicate this. You don't need to get it down to how many cups of sugar, just do we need 25 pounds of sugar or 50 pounds of sugar? A rough estimate is fine. It won't come out perfect no matter what you do, so just pick an amount and plan to fine tune it the next time you make a purchase according to what you actually use up. Okay, so at this point, I now know what I need to buy and approximately how much I need to buy. Now it's time to do my shopping and also to do some garden and livestock planning as well. So for example, we don't grow our own nuts, but we do go through quite a few of them. So I'm going to go to azure.com and add it to my cart in the quantity that I estimated we will need. I do sometimes price compare. I have bought nuts from nuts.com before, so I might try there. But usually because of shipping, it just makes sense to grab it from Azure with the rest of my order. Along with planning my bulk buys, this is also when I think ahead to things like what I should grow in my garden this year, how many meat birds do we need, and butcher dates, things like that. And I think these things will become even more obvious as we do the Three Rivers Challenge and we get a better idea of the rate that we're using things up. After I have everything in my Azure cart, I usually go through it and make sure that we're on budget. And if we're over budget, I might take things out like the fish that's in there that we could do without, or some of the snack foods that I added that just looked like fun. And then if we're under the amount and we have a little wiggle room, then I might add some of the fun things like the seaweed crackers that our family loves. Then for things like paper towels and toilet paper, these things go on our household inventory spreadsheet as well. Make sure you do a thorough walkthrough of your home, writing down all of the things you buy on a regular basis. You don't want to forget something like toothpaste and have to head to the store during your pantry challenge when you could have purchased it ahead of time. Then I've researched the best places to grab these, and I keep track of the price and location, which are mostly online sources where the products are then just shipped to us. Okay, if you're following along and you're thinking, what's the point of buying these things ahead of time or in bulk if I'm going to be purchasing them from a store anyway? There are 3 things to remember. First of all, our first goal is to use up what we already have on hand. Second, whenever you buy in bulk, it generally saves you money. And third, if we can stay out of the stores or make fewer purchases, it's going to save us money just because we're not adding all those random things that make it into our cart, whether that's physically or online, every time we make those purchases. We all do it. And so generally speaking, the fewer purchases that you can make, the more you will save. One more thing I want to point out, when you're making a bulk food purchase, make sure you have a plan for where all of those ingredients are going to live so that they don't end up getting wasted or going bad. I actually have an entire video on this, so I will link it below, but things like how you're going to store it, what temperature does it need to be stored at, these are all things that you need to think of ahead of time. My video on this goes over how much room you actually need for, say, 50 pounds of oats and exactly how I store everything. And spoiler alert, I don't actually do anything fancy for my food storage. I don't use oxygen absorbers or things like that. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have a use or a purpose or a place, but don't let things like that intimidate you, because generally speaking, if you're going to be using up your food storage within a year, it's really not necessary. Okay, so that's exactly how we plan our Azure Standard hauls and our bulk buys. Now let's go over some of the ways that our family is preparing for the 3 Rivers Challenge and the rules that we're going to go by. Our ultimate goal is to stay completely out of the grocery store for the months of January and February. However, we are allowing ourselves a $100 emergency fund for each of those months for things that come up that we just can't do without. The other exception I'm making is around milk and eggs. Now, we do have a milk cow that usually keeps us stocked full of milk, but currently this week she is only feeding her calf. That's a long story, and hopefully we'll get it all sorted out by next week. But if not, I will make an exception for milk purchases because that is a staple in our home. And then our chickens are not currently laying, and I did not do a good job of storing eggs last summer. So for milk and eggs, I'm allowing purchase exceptions. I'm hoping to get these things locally from local farmers and not from the grocery store anyway, but these may be exceptions to our challenge. Okay, so when we've done this grocery store challenge in the past, the thing that always comes up and gets us is the need for convenience foods when life gets hectic. And we are about to have a baby. So I really wanted to think ahead to ways that we could prevent this from happening during this challenge. So 2 things that we're doing are, number 1, I am going to be making a list of very quick meals. They may not be the best tasting or the most nutritious. However, they will fill bellies when necessary. So things like waffles and scrambled eggs. Or I have a quick fettuccine Alfredo recipe that literally takes 10 minutes. I want a master list of these quick and easy recipes that even my kids can make so that in a pinch, we can just throw those together and avoid running out for pizza or something quick from the store. Number 2, I'm planning to make some freezer meals, hopefully over the next week before this baby makes his appearance. I know I'm running out of time. I might even have kids do it, but I feel like having these freezer meals ready to go will be a huge game changer, especially on those days when I'm just not feeling up to cooking. So this could be ingredients in a bag that can just get dumped into a slow cooker, or it can be fully made meals like maybe a lasagna that just needs heated up. Okay, I know I said 2 things, but I actually thought of a 3rd thing that I'm going to do in order to make this pantry challenge a success, and that is to make some of our staples ahead of time. So things like bread, tortillas, and granola. I might not be up to making these things with a new baby, so I want to get some of them in the freezer or in the pantry ready to go. I'm also going to pull my bread machine out of storage, and the only reason it's in storage is because with a big family, It's often more practical to bake bread in bulk. However, it is really nice in a pinch when I need bread for lunch. I can just throw the ingredients in the morning and have it ready a couple hours later. I'm very excited for this pantry challenge. I hope that this video was helpful, whether you plan on buying enough groceries for a year or you're just hoping to stay out of the grocery store a little bit more in the new year. If homesteading, homeschooling, food from scratch, and creating a handmade home are topics that interest you, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you here next week.